Gather round. It's time for your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group at Coldwell Banker Burnett. Listen closely as your coaches discuss the culture, the economy, and the political scene, and how it affects your home and your real estate investments. Real Estate Chalk Talk is where you learn the science of buying and selling real estate and the art of living in your home. Your education begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Obligation. We have a wild and woolly. I got a good show planned for this week.
That's good.
We're going to have a good conversation this week. One of us at least put some thought into it. Huh?
Four segments going to be.
Four segments going to be a barn burner.
I got to read a couple articles during the show here.
All right, let's just go over the market. I like the first segment to be a little market update. The 30th week of the year in 2023. Coming soon numbers.
Coming soon means
means that properties are coming on the market. They're not available for showing yet.
That's your tease.
But they will be. Right? That's kind of the tease. It gives us a chance for the public to know about the property and for it to syndicate through all of the various websites. So the coming soon numbers for this week, 8.2%. As many coming soon properties.
What does that mean, 8.2%?
8.2% of all active listings, because coming soon is considered an active listing because it's available for the public to see, not show. 467 coming soon of the 5,700 properties that are actively on the market. 8%. That's a very teeny-weeny increase from the previous week. I mention that because the inventory growth is typically pretty robust at this time of the year. You got properties coming on the market. You got buyers who are kind of stepping back because they're going on vacation here and that. So inventory tends to swell mid-year like this. It's not swelling as much as it did last year. And we can anticipate what that growing market is going to be by the coming soon numbers. And so we can see that, guys, there's just not as many properties coming on the market as there was a year ago. Even though our sales numbers are down, we'll talk about that in a minute, but just kind of keep that in the back of your head.
Okay.
Here's an interesting thing. Sellers doing price reductions hit another high point for this week. 13.1% of all the properties on the market this week did a price reduction. 13%. 750 properties recorded a price reduction this week of the.
Wow.
So that's a huge.
Yeah. So
thing.
we're seeing stuff online all the time, and I'm getting notifications on different searches.
Right.
And the notifications aren't new properties. The notifications are price reductions.
We have a client that is coming up from Texas.
Yep.
And so I've got two searches set up for him, one for single-family homes and one for townhomes in case he wants to purchase a rental property. And the one search that came up this week, because I always look at them, and see exactly what the properties are, because I kind of have an idea of what they are looking at. And it was like one new listing.
Yep.
And all of the rest of them, there was like 10 properties, were price reductions.
I know. Same thing I'm seeing.
So the lesson there is for people, if you're listening, the takeaway on that point would be is that if you're bringing your property on the market, you have to be very careful about your pricing because just that you have to. There's no stretch room. There's no the numbers say it should be 450, so let's throw her on for 475. That just isn't going to work. It just isn't going to work.
Why am I then still seeing some multiple offers though coming in? Talk about that in terms of maybe is that price range? Is it location? Where are you seeing that occur?
Two things. Condition is one. So many. We're going to talk about this in the next segment when I talk about maintenance. Condition is one. A property that is perfect. And is clean and has been updated and has got good appliances and it's got just very well maintained property, crisp, nice, staged well, great photos. Those are the properties that are getting multiple offers. Why? Because it's an oddity. Because we've gotten lazy over the last few years.
Totally agree.
About preparing properties for sale because you could put any old thing on the market and it would sell. So you see a number of properties right now, and this comes with price reductions as well is you see a number of properties on the market. You go in there and you look at them, and they're just horrible. I mean, they're just like, who said that this was a good idea to put this?
Right.
That this is prepared for sale.
I'm baffled at some of the pictures you see, Keith, where there's still crap laying around too. I mean, it's
shocking.
Baffling.
Shocking.
When you talk about price reductions, do you think people, and when you're doing that, as a realtor as well, do you do a percentage? Do you do a dollar amount? How do you determine, like,
how much?
It can't be a random. There's got to be some. I would hope there's some thought process into it.
There's a couple schools of thought here. One of them is you go by what the banks did. So when the foreclosure crisis was upon us, and there was lots of foreclosures, the banks would, and we sold a lot of distressed properties. So we would just say, we don't know what the bottom is. We just don't know what the bottom is.
Okay.
So we're going to do weekly price reductions and just taking them out depending on how much the house is. So maybe it's $5,000 a week. Okay, so we're going to reduce the price $5,000 or $2,500 or $1,000, whatever it is, every week until the property sells.
Okay.
And then if somebody's looking at that property and every week they get that little poke in the ribs, like ooh, down again, they get a fear of loss that, like, how long do I wait before someone else buys it? Because I really want the house. So there's that. The other thing is on a normal market, not a foreclosure market, is who is the buyer and what price point are they searching in? So if you have somebody who's searching in the 450 to 475 price point, say, for example. Okay, so you've got people out there that are looking at 450. Or
right.
425 to 450. So if you're priced at 475 and you do a $5,000 price reduction, it does nothing for you.
Right.
Same buyers are looking at it.
Yeah.
You haven't gotten in front of a new audience yet. So there you're going to see some more significant reductions because you're trying to break into that new search parameter.
And what are the search parameters? Do you think they go by 50,000, 25,000,
It depends
10,000?
on the price point.
Okay.
So a lower price property, that search parameter might be $5,000 or $10,000.
Okay.
That makes a difference. In a $700,000 or $800,000 property, you might be 25,000 or 50,000 before it has an impact.
Really?
Yeah, because it's just like if someone's looking at $1 million house, 900 to $1 million, they're looking at 900 to $1 million. So dropping at 50,000, same buyer. Does that mean that 50,000 is going to have? It's going to demonstrate your willingness to negotiate and your seriousness about selling? Yes, but are you getting in front of new buyers? Probably not.
Yeah,
probably
interesting.
Not. So depends on what the goal is. Depends on how long it's been on the market.
Are you seeing these price reductions, Keith, come in any particular area or home style or anything? It's across the board from townhome to single family to everything. Okay.
Yeah, it's very across the board. And it's in price. One thing I will say, it's in price points that we wouldn't typically see price reductions.
Really?
For the last couple of years, because that $500,000 and under home has typically been selling like hotcakes.
Yeah, but that's where you're seeing price reductions.
All of a sudden now you're seeing price reductions in there.
Any particular part of town, is the city, metro, more price reductions, suburbs not as much? Are you seeing any of that, or do you think it's across the board?
I think it's more a function of where the inventory is.
Okay.
And I think the city, the core city, Minneapolis, St. Paul, core city, that's typically a very seasonal market in the first place. Spring-weighted market.
Okay.
Summer gets really slow anyhow. There's less inventory on the market. The inventory that's left on the market midsummer is going to be already have some hair on it. It's going to have some dog ears to it.
Yep.
So you're going to start seeing some reductions there. Suburbs probably not as much.
Okay.
But it is very depends on the suburb too.
Okay.
I mean, some of them you're going to see more. Other suburbs are still very robust with their activity, and you're not going to see any reductions there because there's such a shortage of inventory.
The coming soons, seeing anything particular on coming soons that strikes you? Or are you noticing?
Just the fact that they kind of went away for a minute.
Okay.
The coming soon's kind of, you didn't see so many of them.
Right.
And now all of a sudden you're starting to see the coming soon's coming back again, where there's more people trying to get the thing out there. But then just as a percentage though, it is an indication of how much inventory is coming,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why we see that only 8% of the market is doing the coming soon.
And that's
just
low.
not inventory coming
Yeah.
on the market.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a function of the slowness of
How
the
many
market.
homes are on the market right now?
Right now we've got about 5,700 homes on the market. That's down about 13% from a year ago, which was 6,400 homes on the market. 900 homes sold this week. 990 homes sold this week. Went pending this week. That's down 13% from a year ago. And inventory as a total is off about 20%. Sales are off 25%.
Wow.
Big reductions in that as a function of price points. We'll be back next segment with talk about maintenance. I want to share a little bit about that, and that has to do with a lot what we talked about this segment. We'll be right back. Just because you want it to look nice.
Well, you want it to look nice, and in the winter, it's so we have older cement and then newer cement. The
Right.
older cement is starting just to chip.
Mhm.
So in the winter, when it gets real cold and then it gets the sun, we have southern exposure, so it's hot in that backyard,
Okay.
right? So it's actually starting to crumble a little bit. Some of the cement is. So keeping that, it's a stain they put on, and then they put a sealer over it, and just kind of makes it look
It looks
fresh
great.
again.
It looks new.
Yep, it looks really good.
So I'm in a house. Tell you a little story. True story. So I'm in a house recently, and I submitted an offer on a property, and it was substantially lower than the asking price. Okay, the agent calls me back, and he was all upset with me because in this market I had the audacity to submit an offer less under the asking price.
Okay.
And it told me two things. First of all, it told me that he wasn't really in the market
Yep.
because he would know that the market has softened.
What's the price point? Just so we
Softened,
have a price point.
This was in a under $500,000
Okay.
price point. I don't want to say too much because it's still ongoing. So then he called, admonished me because it was less. And I said, well, you priced the property as though it was in great condition. And we had a patio door that was literally mold growing all around it, rotted out at the base. It needed to be replaced. It was leaking. And, it obviously had to be replaced. There was, some paint that needed to be done. There was some carpet that was frayed. There were some chips on doorways and things like that. Just like everywhere you looked, there was something. And I said, well, why wouldn't you have advised the seller to have these items repaired? And he said, well, in this market, the buyer's going to have to assume some of this stuff and
in this market
and go with
nope.
it. And I said, well, no, actually not. I said, you priced it as though all these things were done, but they're not done. So now you're hiring someone else to do it. He's called the buyer, and he's charging you this amount, which was the amount of my price reduction. So that kind of is the lesson in that is when the market was a market of 2 years ago, when we've got 2% interest rates and people are coming out of the woodwork buying homes that they normally wouldn't buy,
right?
Maybe buyers becoming buyers that normally would stay renters for a couple of years. But so we've sold ahead, and it created this outrageous demand on properties. Then people will buy stuff and make offers on things that they normally wouldn't have. Just like they're buying when they normally wouldn't have, they're maybe going to go with something that is less than perfect and pay a premium for it. When interest rates are at 8% or 7% or even 6.5%, there's a little more conscientiousness that goes into that purchase. And they're not so willing to overlook things. And it doesn't take that much. I said, I have a handyman. You want to, did you even get a price
for the items that are
that need it? Did you have your handyman? Well, yeah, they did. And then he talked about with the seller, and then the seller wasn't willing to pay it. Was that price less than my price reduction? And he just silence. He said, well, yes, it was. There you have it. So the buyer is going to charge a premium. We tell people this with carpeting all the time. if you have carpet that's got carpet wear marks and track marks and all that stuff, is it a pain in the butt to move the furniture out of the room and all that and have the carpet replaced? Yes, it is.
Yep.
But then you're in charge of it, and you can put your carpet in that you want and have it done on your timeline and so forth, and it looks great. And people don't have to come in and buy someone else's toenail clippings. They know that they're coming into a clean house and ready to go, no pet dandruff and all of that in there. When you fail to do that, now you're putting that responsibility onto the buyer.
And they're going to charge you more.
They're going to charge you more.
Yep.
Because you would have put in, $20 a yard carpet, and they're going to price in $30 a yard carpet, and that's what they're going to. And plus, it stands to reason. You're asking them to provide a service for you. It isn't just a trading of dollars. They want to profit from having to do that work. And in a normal balanced market, which we are really in right now, a very balanced market, in most cases, then you're going to pay that price, and you're paying a premium. So I always say it's just better to be in charge of your own work than to push it off on somebody else.
Describe, if you don't mind, balanced market. You said it's a balanced market, and I would think we aren't in a balanced market because of such low inventory, but we are seeing fewer multiple offers, but we're still seeing multiple offers. So talk through why you say balanced.
I'm looking across the board in terms of all price ranges all throughout the metropolitan area, and you are getting multiple offers in some price ranges, in some home styles, in some, and you always will.
Yep.
So it is, but in general, a balance to me means some people say, when it's so many months of inventory, when we've got 6 months of inventory, that's a balanced market, and when we have 5 months in, okay. To me, balanced market means when the buyer and the seller have equal amount of say-so in the negotiation.
Okay.
When there's some give and take in a negotiation, that's a balanced market. When the market is all one way, when here's the price, and if you don't buy it, then fine, I'll sell it to the next guy. All right, that's a not balanced market. For a buyer market, when the buyer is saying, I'm going to lowball you here, and if you don't take this, it's going to sit for 6 months, so it's my offer or no offer, that's an unbalanced market. We don't have that. We have some negotiation going back and forth. And all it requires is that people are reasonable and in their expectations, and no one can take advantage of the other side. So a seller can no longer take advantage of a buyer, and they have to have a well-prepared property marketed correctly. And the buyer cannot come in and take advantage of a seller, but they can ask for an inspection. They have a right to expect that you have heat. They have a right to expect that the roof doesn't leak and some of those kinds of things. And if your house is just all generally beat up and looks like it's, like I say with horses, rode hard and put away wet, bunch of kids that you had in the house and the walls are all beat up and nicked up and you didn't do anything to prepare it, then you're going to pay for that. There's going to be a consequence for some of that.
Real quick question. You're going through numbers first segment. How many homes sold last week versus new coming on? Do you recall what that number looked like?
I think I have that number right here. So how
Just
many?
because you're talking about balance, I'm curious what went off and what's coming on.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point. So we have new listings coming on the market last week. If I can just find that here, new pendings. So 990 went off the market.
990 homes?
990 went off the market.
Wow.
And our inventory went up 100. So we have about 100 more homes. So we had about 1,100 homes came on the market, and 990 went off. Okay. So like I said, at this time of the year, our inventory does grow. It is growing, but it's a much slower growth rate than what it was in 2022. So what we're talking about with this maintenance, just do, if you're going to prepare a house for sale, go through the house and if it's broke, fix it. If it's dirty, clean it. If it needs paint, paint it. Take a hard look at your carpeting. Take a hard look at all of that kind of stuff. Anywhere where people put their hands around doorways, light switches and stuff, make sure that's clean and painted because that's where your eye goes. Watch your sight lines. declutter, get the, you don't need all the kids' pictures on the refrigerator anymore. Get the stuff off of there. Think of what the builders do with the new construction model. I mean, they go through a lot of effort in making that house appeal to 80% of the people.
Yep.
And that's your wisest thing. And that's how you get the highest price. And that's how you will still be one of those in your neighborhood that gets the highest offer.
What about outside maintenance? What would you look? Tell me about that as
Well,
you're talking about maintenance.
We just had one so we walk around the house and we look at the siding. It's like, geez, the siding is all beat up. Siding is all beat up. What's that siding all beat up from? It's like, is it hail damage? Is there a potential hail claim there? Is it from the lawnmower kicking up rocks and throwing it at? Is it, what is the reason for this siding? Some of it was we were at a house that had plastic siding on it, vinyl siding, and the how the siding kind of locks in.
Yep.
The wind had gotten underneath it and just had lifted them off, just popped them off. Well, it would have been nothing to go around and just press those back on, lock them back in again, but it wasn't done.
Wow.
Some things like that can have a huge impact because it gives an overall impression of this house was not well maintained. And that's going to cost you, in some cases, a significant amount of money depending on the price point of the property. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk. We're going to come back next segment. We're going to talk about commissions.
Nice.
Yeah, no one likes to talk about commissions. I'm going to open up, tear the scab off.
Oh boy.
Commissions when we come back. Hey, welcome to the program. Welcome back to the program. Thanks for staying with us. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk. We're broadcasting from the Hittner Group at Coldwell Banker Realty, hittnergroup.com, 612-627-8000. 612-627-8000. Give us a ring-a-ling-a-ling. We'd be happy to have a chat with you about your real estate needs. And that is all with no cost and absolutely no obligation. Okay, so I promised when we went out to break that I was going to talk about commissions. Commissions is an interesting topic. Nobody likes to talk about it. Now, just as a
give the backdrop.
Prerequisite here.
Yep.
I'm not suggesting that any of the commissions that I'm discussing are recommended commissions. There's no price fixing going on here. There's no colluding going on. I'm just telling you the way the commissions work. There are a number of lawsuits going on right now, multiple lawsuits across the country that are involving every major broker, including the National Association of Realtors, and they are making claims of price fixing and collusion and all of that stuff because of how the MLS works. So here's how our multiple listing service works. When we take a property, we're going to market a property, we take a listing, we have to offer compensation to the other side of the transaction, to the buyer's agent, through the multiple listing service. That's a requirement of our ability to post properties on the multiple listing service, which is a service that's owned by our association and makes the properties known to the public, and it is from there that the properties get syndicated throughout the system. So Zillow, Zappos, Zerpo, all of those, they all suck properties from the multiple listing service. That's where the originating data is.
Okay.
All right. So that now has come under attack because people are saying, well, the seller now is paying an abnormally high commission because he's offering compensation to another company.
The buyer's representative.
To the buyer's representative.
Okay.
And the buyers have a lawsuit saying, well, we're paying a higher price than we would have because the sellers are inflating the price of their house to cover the cost of the commission that's going to their agent that they didn't negotiate. So our agent was willing to work with us for 2%, and you're paying out 3%, and because of that previous contractual obligation, that house now is 1%
higher
more than it would have been. Okay, kind of convoluted. How the whole thing came about in the first place was we, as a listing agent, negotiate a commission, no matter what that may be, based on the services that we're providing to sell the house. Now, there's no...
Is that a percent? Is that a flat fee?
It can be anything,
whatever?
And that's the beauty of it. It can be a flat dollar amount. It can be a percent. It can be tiered. It can be lots of different ways. The point is that we're getting paid a fee, however it's calculated, to market the property.
Getting paid a fee to market the property. Correct. By the seller. By the seller.
It's their property.
Yep.
So we're getting paid a fee.
That's fair.
All right.
Okay.
So now how we spend the money to perform our service is neither here nor there. So some of that money goes to put a sign in the yard. Some of that money goes to print brochures. Some of that money goes to the photographer for professional photography. Some of that money goes to build property websites so that we can expand our reach. Some of that property is maybe going to go to a print publication. So nobody is asking about that. Some of the property is going to go to another broker to incentivize that brokerage to bring their clients to view the property.
Okay.
So from a listing, to me, it's just all money spent. It doesn't.
It's marketing dollars.
It's marketing dollars.
Some's going to go over here to incent somebody to come. Some's going for marketing.
Right.
Is what you're saying.
So there's no lawsuits saying that your property is the price of your property is inflated because you're going to put a sign in the yard.
Right.
And they're not suing sign companies.
Right.
No one's saying, your property is inflated because you're going to have professional photography, so we got to get rid of these professional photographers. But for some reason, they're going after these. This lawsuit has been going on for a long time. And a long time, years. And it's going to go on for maybe
So there's nothing that's going to really happen now? Or I thought it was coming to
conclusion. It is
happening
happening because you're having some MLSs now, some multiple listing services in other parts of the country settling. So so they've got big payouts and stuff, and it affects all the brokerages.
Wow.
So it's every brokerage in the country this will impact. So it isn't just a couple that they're targeting. And what some of it is that they're saying, okay, so now maybe we should split these commissions apart.
Split commissions apart.
So there's the buyer commission and the seller commission. That's one school of thought. And now, however the money is collected and doled out is neither here nor there. But the buyer needs to understand clearly that they are paying the commission. And the sellers, these multiple listing services, can no longer mandate that there's this payout. So, for example...
But the MLS doesn't mandate you pay out.
Yes, it does.
So you could put in $1.
You can put in $1.
Okay.
Right?
So
you can put in $1, and that's my point. So I'll sell a property. I will list your property today for 2%. I'll list your property today for 2%. So the question is, and I'll do all my normal marketing for 2%.
2%. So I'm going to put a house on the market at $600,000 2 times, so $12,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
2%.
2%.
Okay. So now, did you want to make an offer, Mr. Seller? Do you want to make an offer to the RE/MAX agent who has the buyer under contract with their buyer representation agreement to come and look at your property? If you say you're going to get paid $0, probably no one's going to show it.
But help me with that. You said they have to put in something, so they have to put in like $1 or $1,000.
Well, these lawsuits are going to say you don't have to put in anything.
Okay.
But I put $1.
Okay, so you put in $1. The problem is the consumer is still, I'm online looking at properties. Oh my gosh. And then I email you and say, hey, Keith, found this property. Love it. Let's look at it. I'd love to look at this one. You're like, ugh.
So here's how do you
play that?
The buyer representation agreement. Yes, you are in control. The buyer representation agreement clearly states that the buyer is going to pay this percentage.
The buyer
is obligated to pay a percentage. So let's just pick a number. Let's say it's 2.5%. The buyer's obligated to pay 2.5% minimum. All right.
Okay.
We have an MLS listing that's paying out 3%. Okay. That amount that's collected through the MLS now offsets what the buyer is obligated for. So the buyer now doesn't have to come up with any money because it's covered through the MLS.
Okay.
If it's $1, now the buyer's got to come up with another 2.5%, and therein lies the rub.
Does that exist now in the buyer's rep?
It does.
It does.
Yes.
Now, I would bet any listener right now didn't know that. Everybody I think knows that the seller is paying the commission.
And that number is in there, and the typical number is put in there because it's virtually always offset. And if it's missed by a little bit here or there, nobody pays much attention to it.
So you could put in the buyer's rep 2% to represent you, 2% to sell, so it's 4%.
Yes.
or it's 5%, or it's 6%, or 7%, kind of wherever the market lies, right?
So what you're going to see, I think, is in some of these price points, in some of these communities where we're already seeing it, where it's very popular, the payouts to the other side are getting smaller.
Payouts to the other side. What do you mean?
So instead of 3% payout to the other company, the other broker, you're seeing 2.5%, 2%, 1.5%, 1%.
Okay.
So they're saying, look, this thing is going to sell with or without you. So get the money from your buyer. The problem is in those price ranges that we're talking about, buyers don't have the money. Because, as we'll find out next segment, interest rates are not what they were a few years ago. Buyers are already throwing everything they got into the transaction just to get the house. And now you're saying that we have to come up with another 2%. So what you're going to see is the price being inflated and money used to cover commission dollars. And the same thing is going to result. It's just that we have now had 5 years of lawsuits and literally millions of dollars spent on attorneys to have the same result.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what we see on our side, and I'm familiar with what we're talking about. What they think will happen on our side is they're going to expand the seller can contribute 3% towards closing costs to now 5%.
Right.
And now they're going to build it in, have it contribute, and now, but at least, so here's the only good. I know when I hire you, Keith, to help me find a new home, it's costing me 2%.
Right.
And it's so everybody's
People
maybe
have
more aware.
They don't understand how real estate agents get paid.
Right.
And they think that they're somehow paid a salary or something. They're 100% commission. So, and the buyer's agent is charging a fee. It's just how the money gets moved through the system to get into their checking account. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk. We'll be back next segment with the money segment of the big program. That's where we're going to find out what's going on. The market is crashing. We'll be right back.
But we're going to wrap
money in the bank.
Rates are good. Pretty exciting.
You know why? Why?
Free money. You understand what I'm saying?
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. This is the money segment of the big program. Calvin Kamick, ladies and gentlemen. 651-231-2500. That gives you the best rate. That gives you the best overall transaction experience in the United States of America right there.
It gives you, it gives you higher rates, high fee. Man, tough week.
Oof.
Tough week.
So when is it going to end? I mean, they just keep raising. I did hear that the GDP now they expect to be down off a tick.
Yep.
So maybe that will signal.
Yeah, we're literally here live. I'm just going to see where the market is right now. Rate watch. So we're a little bit better this morning, but it's, we just had just tough week. Fed raised their rates again by a quarter to 5.5% now, the Fed funds rate, which is the overnight borrowing rate for banks to the Federal Reserve, but it has an impact on everything, right?
Yeah.
So lines of credit, credit cards, auto loans, mortgage rates, HELOCs, everything is going up. You've got
credit card rates now that are through the, they're like nosebleed rates.
Yesterday, it's one of those things, Keith, that, while we're looking at coffee this morning, I literally pulled up my rates and said, hey guys, here's real, this is our rates, it's raw. And, you're talking, low sevens, mid sevens, that you're going to be paying. So we can put some money down, pay more in points to get you in that 6.99 range, which, psychologically maybe helps people, but payment wise, it doesn't move the needle a whole lot, to be honest. But dang it, it's high. Rates are getting a little uncomfortable, right? So I sent a thing out to all my real estate agents I work with, and we're at 22-year highs now, and I've been in the business 21. I said, okay, it's time for, here we go again. I don't have another 20 years in me, but probably got 10 or 15. But we're gonna hope. We just got to peak out here. We got to peak and then come back. And
I don't know how fast things are going to come back.
Well, I can tell you exactly.
Well, you said they were going to come back in May, so we know how good you are at that. I just think that we're in for this for. I think a year from now we're still going to be talking about high rates. Now maybe not as high.
Right.
If they go above 8, I don't see them going too much above 8. I just don't see them going above 8.
Yeah, here's what I mean. I was doing some stuff on kind of where's the market going and the prediction. Like here's where we are. Here's what the average. They think at the end of the year we will average. So every year we have an average interest rate. They average it over the year, and they think we'll be about 7 1/8, 7 1/4 by the end of the year. Like that's what we will have averaged. And then next year, the first quarter, they think we're gonna flirt with 8. Be a little bit over 8 for the first quarter.
Really?
Yeah. Second quarter start to come down, and then by election time, close to the election, start to see a decrease, and then we'll get back to.
I'd start to see a decrease, but that decrease might just be the high 6s or low 7s.
They think that we'll get back to high 5s. High 5s to 6.5 is going to be kind of where
that's probably not
well,
going to happen.
hey, look at my predictions so far. I've been wrong every time.
Been wrong every time.
So
the only thing that I see is, what I see? I see them.
I'm actually pretty good at this.
Next year, seeing that the economy is like recession teetering.
Mm-hmm.
3 months of lower GDP, reducing GDP, and they reduce rates.
Mm-hmm.
Because that seems to be their only arrow in the quiver.
Well, that's why they're doing that right now. That they're raising it so they can come back off of it. But here's the thing that they said. So here's why they raised it again, because they're hoping there would be a pause. They said job gains are robust.
Mm-hmm.
Unemployment is low, and inflation remains elevated. Now, today, the inflation report comes out, and it looks like it's going to go down a little bit, so that's good. But they say the Fed economists are no longer forecasting any recession. And they were trying to push us to recession, and that's why they keep raising this, because they want us, because it's either hyperinflation or it's recession, and you got to pick your poison, and obviously we're going into an election year next year. Everything's going to be focused around the economy. So they're going to try to
do anything they can to make it look good.
But man, it's impacting, when you're talking to people and you're talking, hey, 7.5 with no points, no discount, no nothing. I mean, you notice that. I was looking at my charts on our, I've got this document we use for the radio show, and, I'm going, okay, when rates go from 2.99 to 3.5, be careful. Now you look at that, and my chart didn't even go. Now we're back to 7.5. When I got in the business, I was looking at what was the interest rate I was selling 21 years ago when I got in the business, and it was literally 6.875 is where we were, and I'm just like, man, it's kind of, we're higher than that right now. But again, like we talked about, interest rates on credit cards, 26% this week. People carrying balances. I was on the phone with a client yesterday, and I'm just like, and I literally said, we just got to pump the brakes a little bit. Let's do some things and get you in a better financial position, because you can't be carrying $40,000 of credit card debt at 26%.
Right.
We're never getting ahead. Well, I'm making all my minimum payments, but minimum payments on that stuff was like $1,000, and you're not making headway.
Right.
That's what people get. You're not making headway.
Yeah. You're paying the interest,
and no one
you're
looks
not
at
even covering all the interest.
Not
Are you
even,
at that?
no.
You're not even covering all the interest. So you could not use the card and make your minimum payment, and the balance would go up every month.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things I think people are. That's why, quite honestly, we're doing a handful of refinances every month. We're doing okay. But you're looking at, we got some refinances going in. It's a reallocation of debt, and we got this great tool. If you're struggling with some credit card debt and you got this, and you're like, I'm not sure what to do. I know we have some equity, but I got this nice rate of, let's say it's 3-4%.
Right.
Let's at least talk and say, okay, does it make sense? We have a cool worksheet that we put in your credit card debt here, what your interest rate, and then kind of what's your effective rate on all your debt.
Right.
And then what could we go to?
And what are you paying out every month regularly?
Right.
Just household paying out.
Yep.
And maybe you could reduce that number by $1,000.
Exactly. So we're doing our cash flow analysis, makes sense, doing all this. Yeah, there's a lot of tools we have. So I don't think it's bad to continue to have conversations. And like this client we were talking to yesterday, it's just a matter of like, let's get you ready. Let's get you ready to buy a new property versus just jumping in. And now we spent 100% of our resource, because it's a VA deal, a VA loan, great loan, 0 down. They still need closing costs, because it's tough to get those yet still in today's market, and that would literally tap them out. So now you're putting somebody in a position where they have less than, $2,000 in any account, running 40,000 of credit card debt over here. I'm just like, we're just like,
you're too vulnerable.
Yeah, right. But then you hear all the politicians talk about the fact that what percentage, John F. Kennedy Jr. had a town hall deal on Fox with Hannity and all this, and it was really well done. But he said, like, most people can't put their hands on $1,000 right now. Mm-hmm. And it's like, man, I think we just have an obligation and a responsibility to help people get positioned financially better. And we're in a position to help people do that. So it makes sense. So rates are, to summarize, rates are a little bit higher this week. We hope they come down a little bit. I just need this thing to stabilize, and then the higher ups in our company, all that, are like, hey, this is okay. Hang in there. We're doing okay. Because as we do this, more and more companies are going out of business in our industry. And that's a good thing when you're the largest company in the industry, because you have a lot more runway for loss, right? So that's where we're at right now.
And it's funny because people talk a lot about, I watch the same thing with Kennedy, and you talk about the concern for the environment and the concern for this and the concern for the other thing. It's hard to be concerned about stuff when you can't put your hand on $1,000. When if the car breaks down, you're trying to figure out how to cover the cost of that. You're not thinking about global warming or climate change or any of that right now. So get the half of the population in a position where they're comfortable and be able to take care of their families, and that maybe they can then start focusing on maybe doing some good for others, and that's just a good thing for our whole culture and our whole society. Yep. And it all comes back down to housing, because it's just a big deal. It's 30% of the economy at least. And every time there's a transaction, just think of it. Someone buys or sells a house. That person who bought that house, are they going to probably buy some paint? Probably. Are they going to go buy maybe a new piece of furniture? Are they going to maybe get a new appliance? There's just so much that comes with that purchase.
Yep. You're right. So if you want to have a conversation, I'd love to have that conversation with you. Give me a call at 651-231-2500. Again, 651-231-2500. Love to have a conversation, grab a cup of coffee, talk through your situation, get you well positioned to make smart decisions regarding your money and your mortgage.
And if you take one thing away, it's maintenance today. Yep. Maintain your financial health and well-being, and look for a way maybe you can reduce your overall spending as a family on your month-to-month, and maintain your assets. I mean, if you own a house, you spent a lot of money and to buy that property, your family is in there. Maintain that asset. That way, when you go to sell, if you're going to sell and move up or move on, you don't have 10 years of deferred maintenance that you have to suddenly come up with to get it ready for sale. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk. I'm Keith Hittner Sr. with Calvin Kamick. We'll see you next week.